Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. We are doing some on-air coaching today with Miss Lisa Norman. Lisa is in our Activate program, and I'm super pumped to talk. So, Lisa, tell us really quickly just a little bit about you and what you do.
So I basically was raised by a mom who had a lot of stress and anxiety. So it colored our whole world. And I always, as a child, wanted to have a little bit more just happy quality memories. That was one thing that I always, so when I became a mom myself, I set out to do it a little bit different. And then, like 3 years ago, I kind of had this epiphany or this life moment where everything was colliding down, and I felt like I was reliving my mom's life. And that got real scary for me because my mom actually ended her life by suicide. So that was like a huge wake up call that I needed to do something different for me and our family so that my kids didn't have to have that same experience. So through a whole bunch of trials and errors and figuring out like my space in that, I came up with a process that worked to kind of flip around, bringing more happy moments into the home and less yelling and screaming and crazy moments. And then what happened was the kicker was my husband was sitting on the couch one day as all this transformation was happening in our house. And he goes, "Are you telling me that women don't just know how to do this?" And I just laughed. I laughed and I was like, "No, we don't. Like, we just know how to do a million things in our head at once."
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I think you need to take a breath. And his background, I should say, is in process management. So like he kind of was like, well, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't you building out like, so that's basically what I've done is I've built my business is helping moms just set and accomplish goals on a daily basis in the hecticness of all the things that we have going on in our life.
Okay. So, what's like the number one thing you want to get out of our time together?
So I am like launching my first webinar.
Hey.
I know I'm super excited I looked at the calendar and was very strategic. So the date is going to be the week of not this coming Monday, but the next week. So October
Okay.
7th. But I have questions like on the specific, like how do you transition from live webinars to Evergreen? And like, how many do you do do I do three different, if I'm going to do three times, like, do I do three on the same day or what does that look like? And I know, keeping your ideal client in mind is always part of it, but like structurally, what is my work week going to look like as I'm now taking and adding webinars into the mix?
Okay. So, what are you selling on the webinar?
So I'm selling a combo package of my courses because I have one course that focuses on getting, and it's very quick and concise. And it says, let me give you your starting spot of what is your main stressor in your life that we can fix. And my second course that goes right with it takes you through a deep dig into that course to where you are learning how to properly analyze that problem so that you can actually make change in your life to go forward.
Okay, so we're selling these two things bundled together, yeah?
Yes.
What are the price points for that?
I think I'm going to sell it at 190 or 167 right now. I have individual prices on them, but when I comboed it all together, that's where I was looking at for the first starting spot.
Okay, so why don't you do 167 and then 497 VIP where they get some private time with you?
Okay. Yep. 497 VIP.
And so this is your first like launch, yeah?
Yeah. And I've been doing like a ton. And I guess that's probably like beyond the schematics of like, should I be looking at doing it 3 times a week or 3 times on one day? Like getting the word out beyond Facebook, paying for Facebook ads. Like that's my other where I want to talk to you. So those two things.
So since this is a launch, it's different than Evergreen. So I would do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of that week.
Okay.
To host your webinars. I would not do 3 on one day just because when you do a live webinar, like you bring so much energy and you put so much into it. Like I could not imagine doing 3 in one day. Like by the time I'm done with one, my brain is just like, peace out. I'm like, yeah. I guess if I had to, I would figure out a way to make it happen and bring the energy. But ideally you do like, I would do 3 different times. So maybe like a 10 a.m. on Tuesday, noon on Wednesday, and then like 2 p.m. or depending on your audience, sometimes 7 p.m. on Thursday. So I
So
know
I was
like
going to actually go a bit later because I felt like I'm targeting moms. And I felt like,
so 10 and 2 could be nap time. That could be nap time for them. And then if you wanted to do like 8 o'clock, that could be after bedtime.
that was what I was thinking, like an 8 o'clock, or in since I'm on East Coast, reality is like even almost,
9 o'clock.
I know, then that's fine. Like it's like I'm not, it's one night a week. It's not the end, it's not going to wreck our life.
As long as you can bring the energy. I'm asleep at 9. I'd figure out
Yeah,
a way to
no.
make it happen, but I would not want to host a webinar at 9 o'clock at night. But if you like, you know your audience. So I know some people they target people who work full time. And so they could do like the lunchtime break or after work when they get home around 7. If you're targeting a
Okay.
mom, then I would just test it out and do nap time, bedtime.
Okay, so do you test it out like in the same like sequence, like that next week that this set of 3 that I'm scheduling? Do I do them at 3 different times?
Yeah. So Tuesday, 10 a.m., Wednesday, 2 p.m., Thursday, 9 p.m. And
Okay,
so you can have one registration page where they choose from those 3 options.
okay, that's what I was getting at. And
And
then
so,
basically I learned from that and then tweak it again to rerun it in 2 weeks. Is that the gist of this?
so ideally, you're filling up that program and you're getting some really good feedback from those people.
Okay.
And then once you have a solid course that you're really confident about, how long does it take for them to go through the course?
4 weeks.
Could you offer group? So do group and then VIP is with your private time?
What do you mean by explain group? And then
So it'd be 4 weeks of group coaching with you. And because we just talked about this on the Activate call, it's just
yeah,
because you're
yeah.
going to get so much good feedback from them and good
Yes.
testimonials that you're going to be able to use later. 167 is cheap for
Okay.
4 weeks of group.
Well, and that was where we were, yeah, we spent quite a bit of time looking at this, and like that was where we kind of, that was the initial, like that's not where I want to stay by any means.
No, I think like, so I know this is going to be really cheap, but like 197 to start with those, like maybe you do 4 group coaching calls for the group. And I know that's so cheap, but I just want you to get people in the door and get them some really good testimonials. And when you're selling this, like, you know, it's never going to be at that price point ever again. They're never going to get the group with you at that price point ever. And so you're going to be able to sell it a lot easier.
Okay.
And then the VIP with you, it's up to you on how, do you know what your hourly rate is and how many calls you would want to include?
When I did like market survey of people that were doing similar, around $75 an hour is like for a starting pace, was where when I looked at other coaches, if you have to use that word, that's where the price point was coming in.
So you can do 197 for the group and 497, and maybe they get like 2 30-minute calls with you in Voxer access. And like these prices are so cheap, but you're gonna raise them. Like every time you launch it, you're gonna raise it.
Okay, so that's how that works. So you basically launch it, get the course going. Oh, sorry that I keep bumping the table.
You're fine.
Okay, so I do it at these prices, get this going.
Get results, get testimonials, and then after those 4 weeks, you can host your next webinar.
Okay, so basically,
and that's you with the goal of making it evergreen.
Okay, so it's not necessarily doing one every 2 weeks.
Not until that first 4 weeks is over. You got good testimonials, then you could do a webinar and then do it every 2 weeks until you have a good high converting webinar that you want to make evergreen.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does totally. So then my next question is, then let's talk about like how, I mean, I've been networking my fanny off.
Yeah.
Being amazing. Like this Chattanooga is an amazing area. I've probably hooked up with 5 to 6 different people. I already have a podcast interview scheduled with a lady that works with parenting on infertility, like
cool.
Financial. So I have those things going.
Yep.
So, and I have that like all kind of in the works and everything.
Yep.
So, and then I have quite a few massage therapists because they fit really well in, because I'm very kind of naturally approached behind the scenes.
Yeah.
That's good. But how do I, like, do I just reach out to them and say like, hey, I'm launching this webinar. This is what I'm doing. Is there any way that you can, or how do I get that, the initial, that's where I always get stuck, is the initial, like, how do I get the word out there in like the right way and not spending hours on Facebook?
Yeah. So I would see if these people, if they have good audiences online, where you could just say, hey, could I go live if they have a Facebook group? Can I go live in your Facebook group and teach your audience about this? So it's a give. You're giving. You're not asking for them to do you a favor. And then
So what if they, what if, okay.
At the end of your training, you can invite them to your next thing.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, totally get that.
So I would see any Facebook groups that you could join, that you could ask the owner, hey, could I go live in here? If you can build a relationship with those people, get on as many podcasts as you can. I'm so happy you got on one. Let's keep going, like keep pitching. And a lot of those podcasts, you're not going to get on before your webinar. Just like,
that was what, like, so I'm actually recording with her next Friday.
It won't be live for probably another month. Typically,
I'm not going live on hers until January, she told me.
Yeah. See, a lot of times, like we batch, like I don't even know. We probably have 2 months of content, for our podcast. So what I would do in that case is have a simple freebie that you could get them on your email list. And it's not the webinar, because you don't want to promote something that's already passed.
Okay.
So get them on your email list. When they're on your email list, you can invite them to the next webinar.
Okay. So on the podcast, I promote like either my freemium or whatever I have going on. And I do like a very short, easy website that goes right to the sign-in page.
I would have whatever freebie you have, that's Evergreen, because the thing about podcasts is they last for a long time, and people will find that months down the road, and you don't want them to be taken as something that's gone.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
You could find people on Instagram that have your ideal client and see if they do Instagram shout outs. Maybe you could take over their Instagram stories.
I'm not on Instagram.
You're not on Instagram? Okay.
No, because my backstory is I spent a year and a half on Facebook trying to figure out Facebook. So
gotcha. In the future, when you're like, when you have a team that's able to help you and you're growing your Instagram, then you can start doing some shout outs and Insta stories. Like I know me and some of my friends that we're in the same kind of like industry, whenever we do a challenge or something, like I'll ask, hey, can I create a few Insta stories for you? And you post it. So she shares it with her audience, and that's giving me exposure in front of all those people.
Right.
So it's just figuring out who is in your network that you could leverage their audience.
So right now it would be building up on like just getting in front of as many Facebook groups that I can.
Facebook groups and podcasts. Facebook groups will give you the most immediate return, but you want to be getting on podcasts for sure.
Yeah, no. And I have my list of those. I just wasn't sure, like in planning the webinar and all of that, like that just craziness that goes on there. So then I guess that is my question, is that like, is it, if I haven't made these connections then yet with these groups, or like this, what you're talking about, do I spend a week finding the groups that I can do the lives in before?
Yes. And I would also think, so this is what I did when I was first starting, is I found people who I wanted to interview on my Facebook Live before I even had a podcast. And so these weren't, for the most part, they had small audiences themselves, but they would be excited that they would be getting in front of my people, and they would share it out because they were like, so it would be me being able to serve them, get them in front of my people, but then they would always share it and be like, oh, I was just on Rachel's podcast or Facebook and we talked about this, this, and this, and it would send more people my way. And so you could start by interviewing people who are in a similar niche, maybe parenting, or like find those experts, and see if you could just, hey, can I get you in front of my audience? I would love to interview you on a Facebook Live. And then you could always save those audios too and upload them to the podcast when you have one.
Yeah, no, I've already been looking into that. That sounds super. It's like, I'm not gonna focus on everything. I'm going to focus on getting this webinar. So then potentially, since I'm still like in the final building stages, of that, it makes more sense from this conversation to push my webinar back one more week so I have more time to start. And
Yeah.
No.
I would, just so you have a little bit more time. And then I would also go back and reach out to all the people you did market research with and invite them to the webinar and ask them, hey, do you know anybody that might be interested in learning about this?
Okay.
In the beginning,
Yeah.
when you don't invest in Facebook ads, it's like more of that time spent, so it's like, this is exactly what I did. Like, I didn't have the money to invest in Facebook ads, so it was time spending building those relationships and private messaging people and all of that. But you either spend money or you spend time.
Right. No, I totally get that.
Right?
But it's like figuring out like what actually makes sense to spend your time on.
Yes, this would be a good time spend for you until you have someone on your team that could start pitching for you.
Okay.
Because that could be once you have someone on customer service, like they could be pitching for you and finding opportunities for you.
Okay. And that's probably a whole nother thing that I need to just keep closed for right now, I'm saying.
Do you have a VA yet?
No, I don't. But I'm very budget maxed right now with everything that we have, all the moving pieces and holidays coming up, and sharing.
Do you hear my dog?
Wait,
my dog is losing it. Somebody's here.
Oh.
But sorry. I would make it a goal by a month from now. You have 5 hours a week that you pass off to a VA for $10 to $15 an hour.
And what does that VA do exactly? Because I hear everything in the group about the VA, but I'm not sure that I fully comprehend like what I'm giving them. Because I actually have a college girl in mind that might be the right fit if I knew more about what they do.
Anything that can't be like, that doesn't have to be done by you. So literally make a list of all these things that are on your to-do list and then figure out, what can I only do? Only you can do that podcast interview, but someone else can pitch to get you on it.
Okay. Okay, so the what I can't do, the stuff. Okay. Yeah, super, super helpful.
Literally make that whole list. What are all the things that you're doing in a given week? What are the things literally only you can do? And in the beginning, you're not going to outsource everything, because it's just not like, I didn't outsource everything. But I made a list of what are the things that take up the most of my time that I freaking hate and I suck at, that someone else could do it in like a second. So for me, it was like active campaign automations and getting stuff like just the techie back end stuff. Like,
that stuff takes so much time too. That's what I'm learning.
Exactly. But for someone who understands it, it takes them like 0.2 seconds. And they're just like when I see what Ariana, our project manager, what she's been able to do in active campaign, like for her, it takes no thought. And she just like, like for her, it's just like, that's how her brain is wired. For me, I would be sitting there staring at that screen for hours, just being like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Send help and wine.
No, and I think it was like, I think for me, like I'm so visual, like I wasn't getting it until like I saw the process street. And like this morning when we were chatting about like help, I'm drowning here in my own campaign land. And I was like, oh wait, no, I get it. Like it just needs to be plugged in, like this.
Yeah.
So I think I'll be okay on that stuff per se, but that's where I'm struggling with like a lot of the stuff that I have right now on my to-do list is like a one-time thing. I don't have a lot of this is my business work tasks because I'm still
you'll get into workflows and stuff. So like we have podcast workflows where someone on our team is responsible for like finding people to get on the podcast and going through applications and scheduling them and creating questions for me to ask. And then someone on our team is responsible for editing. I'm going to kill my dog.
It's fine.
I'm like going to go hide in the closet.
And kids haven't come in here yet. So
I need to like hide in the closet. What's happening out there? But yeah, but then someone on our team is responsible every week for editing the podcast, for creating the show notes, for creating the images. And so just the more further along you get in your business, the more you're going to have these reoccurring tasks that people will be able to just grab and go.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So, and I guess if I had one other question that wasn't like specific for you, it would be in this like whole entrepreneurial path, we hit these stumbling blocks and we fall and we have to find it to pick ourselves back up again.
Yeah.
Like what is your, if you had looking back on everything that you've learned, what's what's your best takeaway for how to pick yourself back up again when you're having that bad week and you're like, oh my gosh, everything that I thought I just worked for is now crumbling and I'm back at square one.
That's a good question. One thing is to have perspective, like ask yourself a different question, like what's good about this instead of telling yourself this story of everything's crumbling, everything's falling apart. It's literally just looking on the bright side, like what's good about this right now? What can I learn from this? How can I move forward from this? I think just having a little change in perspective is huge, huge. And just knowing like in entrepreneurship, everything that you go through, it's setting you up for something bigger and knowing what's that bigger vision. What are you really working towards? So you can't let yourself get down when something crappy happens. Like it's going to happen all the freaking time, like stuff just happens. But what ultimately are you like? What are you fighting for? What's your vision? Did you watch the Dwayne Wade video?
No, I haven't because I've been
You
so
have
immersed in,
to. It's
I
like,
know I have it written down all my stuff to like watch all of this stuff, but I feel like I've been so immersed in like the building of the webinar.
yeah, it's like 4 minutes, literally. It's
Okay,
four
I will make
minutes
sure that that gets in before this is
today.
done.
And you really do have to have a bigger vision beyond making money, beyond getting the webinar set up. Like ultimately, how do you want to serve the world and what do you want your legacy to be? And you have to have that like big picture thinking to help you get over all the tiny little
So
roadblocks.
like that would be like just turning back to like the transformation that you want to be leading, right? Is that what?
Exactly. Like imagine all the women that you're going to be serving. It's kind of like that tribe that you're creating, that movement
Yeah.
that you're creating. But not only that, like when your business is making so much money, how are you going to give back? Like what are the organizations that are really on your heart? Like just picture that. So like for me, I picture like the schools we're building in Africa and the entrepreneurs
Right.
that we're going to be able to fund and all those like big things. And like what do you want to be doing? So have that bigger vision of like,
So
how can
like
I
the vision
really,
that I had, if I could talk in my space, it would be like obviously starting a non-for-profit that helps and picks up people that family members that have survived suicide,
mm-hmm,
like being that person there just to give them that one hug that they need, right? That's
yeah,
what you're talking about, like focus on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Instead
Instead
of,
of all like the little crap that's going to happen. And you can't, like, it's literally just focusing on mindset, your leadership, your personal development. And,
okay, yeah,
and like, how can I learn from this? Or what can we do to figure this out, solve this problem? Because it's going to happen. Like whenever you do a launch, whenever you have your webinars or whatever, I guarantee you there's going to be like a missing link or
oh,
the sales page won't work or like something is going to happen. I don't want to like jinx you, but it's just like it's going to
no,
happen.
I've
Like it's happened in every single one of our launches, just something. Like there's always that little tech thing that you overlook or an email that goes out on the wrong time or just something. And it's just how are you going to handle that? Are you going to be like, oh, that sucks? let's just move forward. Or are you going to like wallow in it and being like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It's just,
right,
you can't take things too seriously. It's just like, oh, that happened. Oh, well, like, how can we move forward?
right. That, no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Other questions?
Um, well, I guess we covered all the stuff on webinars. And then beyond doing Pinterest, are there any other things that I should be doing to grow my email list, like practical things that I need to be incorporating, like into my, like if I talked about my daily or work week?
Blogging, SEO, making sure
And
your blog
that's
posts are SEO optimized.
okay.
Huge. Um, Putting it on Pinterest. You can just take your blog post and do a Facebook Live about it too.
Yeah. Oh, I have actually, I just worked up a whole thing where I'm going to take I'm going to do the live, create the blog from it, and then also break it down into mini posts for my page. Kind of like, I'm just really into that repurposing of the content to make sure that you're getting it saturated out there.
Every Facebook Live that you do, so when you start doing these interview swaps and you're getting people on your Facebook Live, talk about the free thing that you have. Like, oh, hey, by the way, did you know I have this free cheat sheet or free webinar or free yada yada that's going to help you X, Y, and Z. So like every time you put, like you're doing those videos, have a specific call to action. So what do you want their next step to be?
Okay, and but that stuff should be all done from my business page, right? And then I just need on my personal page to be moving traffic over to the business page.
I wouldn't even worry about that. Like most likely your ideal client's not on your personal page.
So then how do you grow your Facebook business page then? Because that's where like
interview swaps, but that's going to be the biggest thing for now until you can spend money on Facebook ads, interview swaps.
Okay. So that's okay. So that's where the bang for the buck is in these interviews.
Literally, yeah, just getting in front of other people's audiences. That's huge.
So any way that I can figure out, or so I basically just need to be spending, like in my like back in the day, what I would call I'm checking out mentally and I'm scrolling Facebook. I need to be on Facebook then looking for other businesses that would be a good fit for me.
Yes.
Okay.
If there are any groups that you're a part of as well, I don't know in your niche, like in our niche, there's freebie days. So it's like on this specific group on Fridays, you can post your free thing. You could still post in like the businessy ones that have those because there might be someone in there that needs you.
Yeah, and I have been. And that's where like I'm trying to like when you talk about like who are people that are similar in niche, I know where to find my people on Facebook. Like I've figured out that they're in mom groups, like specific mom groups. But like when it comes down to who could I use to get in front of their audience, that's a little bit different because I am targeting a personal situation and not a business platform. So it's not, so I actually have to, but what I have noticed, this is positive, huge positive, is that a lot of the groups that I've been in, they don't have guidelines about going live. So if I can go live in their group and just give value, that's going to build a lot more traction to me than necessarily, it might be a side angle because I'm not necessarily business focused on my end user, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's all I had for questions.
Yay. Well, let us know in our Facebook group, like how you're doing with your webinar setup and all that stuff. And if you need help with the tech, you've seen the Process Street document, correct?
It is like, I would take that document over the training videos that's just my learning style any day. Like
totally. And I know, well, some people learn differently. So that's why we have both. You have
videos
like
and I found those. I was like, do I need to, and I know I need to watch the videos, but wait, not right now. Like I just need this to get me to get my messy action out of the way, I guess.
Totally. Yeah. So that'll be like super easy for you to just take that plug and play step by step by step. And then as you're prepping for the webinar, if there's anything we can do to help you, just let us know. Cause I'm sure all the girls are going to want to shout you out and share you and all that good stuff.
Sounds good. Yeah. So it's coming then, almost there.
Okay. Where can everyone connect with you?
LisaNormanProject.com is where you can connect with me.
Perfect. And you have a freebie there that they can grab?
I do have a freebie about how to make more time in your chaotic mom life.
Cool. Well, I love what you're doing. I love your heart. You're serving so many women, and I can't wait to see the impact that you're going to create. So thank you for being a part of Activate. And I can't wait to see where you're going to be a couple of months from now.
Yeah, me too. Super excited.